Okay, bring your breakfast, bring your champagne, bring your tea and your coffee. And come and join us, please, to find out more from Reese, from Eteach, about their new tool, Cover Staff. Thank you. I'm just gonna, just give me a minute to introduce you and I'll bring you on.
Right, yeah.
Would you want to take a seat and I'll introduce you? I'm struggling. Are we on? Yeah? Amazing. Good morning and welcome to day 3 of Love Tutoring at Bett. It has been an adventure. I a little bit feel like I'm announcing comic relief right now. It's been an adventure. We started on day 1 with some high-level conversations about the place of tutoring in mainstream education. Day 2, we started stretching the boundaries and considering the place of tutoring in alternative education, online schools, alternative provision, world tutoring, which we've just scratched the surface of. And today what we've created is a buggling in, a settling in together for what we've decided to call the big hug. So the theme for today is Tutors Need Tutors, and it has never felt more true to me. I just had the pleasure of sharing a glass of champagne, thank you Tutors International, on the balcony in the sunshine, looking over the River Thames with my tutoring friends. And it's a joy to be able to share and grow relationships, not networking groups, relationships that nurture and grow each other so that we can each nurture and grow the children that we support. Now, I'm about to introduce Reese Howells from Eteach, and they have a new tool that they're going to be sharing with us today called Cover Staff. Now, what I know about Eteach and what I've understood about the Cover Staff project is it's all about helping the adults to more effectively help the children, to put the right people in front of the right people with as little friction as possible. And we've had really strong themes throughout everything that we've been talking about at Bett between the human and the technology, right? The internal intentions of the tutor and the specific needs and learning goals of the child. And when we can create alignment in all of those directions, what we do is we reduce friction and enable us to waste less energy to do more of what we know that we can do brilliantly. And that sounds to me like a really, really helpful place to start this conversation. So Reese, without any more fuss or taking more of your time, over to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Julia. And thank you to the Love Tutoring team for having us here today. We're very excited to introduce Cover Staff, but a bit about Eteach and myself first. My name is Reese Howells, as Julia kindly introduced, and I'm the Managing Director at Eteach. Eteach are an edtech business dedicated to revolutionise school recruitment and hiring, as well as individual educator careers. And as Julia mentioned, it is all about making sure we help the right educator reach the right end customer. For us is those students at the end of the day. We have for a while been looking at how do we disrupt, how do we change the status quo of how things are done. Eteach was the first to take things online. So in 2001, we launched the first online jobs board. So it is a direct competitor to the traditional print media out there. And over the last 20 years, continue to evolve that mission to revolutionise recruitment, bring new solutions into the market to help both educators and schools do things better, engage with each other in a far more seamless online way, and ultimately deliver that value into the classroom. One of the shocking things, I don't know if many people know, this is me, but the flexible teaching or temporary teaching market last year spent over 1.1 billion on getting temporary teachers, educators, tutors into work, and around 330 million of that went to agencies, not into the educators and into the schools. That's something at Eteach we have a problem with. We feel that money should be spent better, should be saved by schools and given to the educators that are doing all the hard work, ultimately benefiting the children. And we do believe that education isn't just a straight path into the classroom. There are far more ways now to engage and deliver education to the end user. So we've always endorsed this concept of blended careers, and recently as well introducing a tutoring service within Eteach as well, targeted at SEND and alternative provision as well. It really sort of brings that blended career message to life. And cover staff is going to sit right alongside that to, again, help tutors, supply teachers connect with their audience in a far easier way online without the use of agencies. So this is a mobile app. It is an online platform dedicated at connecting you directly to the individuals, schools, parents that are looking for tutors, supply teachers for their children. It has been an ongoing process for us. We've actually had this platform for a long time internally at Eteach, managing the work we do to help students and schools, and now we're turning it into a for public consumption. The concept is very simple as well. Imagine it as a virtual agent in the sense that you sign up, you create your profile, you go through the compliance and clearing. Once you're live on the system, schools that are looking for educators will post on their profile, you'll get the notification, your availability will be in there, and it will automatically connect you to engage with the school and then go in and do the work you're needed to, or again, with the parent market as well. The key for us is the control element from the educator perspective. You know, you're not reliant on a third party to dictate where you're going to go or who needs you as well. You have full control now over your career. You get to manage, again, the hours you work, the rates you work at. So it's completely tailorable and flexible based on the individual educator now. And we're really looking at disrupting that whole process. We see it as one of the big problems in the industry with schools, parents over-reliant on the agencies to find educators now. But in a world of connectivity and flexibility and online ability as well, we believe we can do that in a far more simple and effective way.
Are you going to be ready for questions through this?
Absolutely. Can we do them at the end or
absolutely.
in the middle?
Absolutely. Plenty to ask you.
Brilliant. This is a few more slides and definitely questions. We'd love to hear some thoughts, early thoughts. As I said, direct to schools is the most important thing for us. We do not want to put any barriers in the way. We want to put you directly, remove that friction, as Julia mentioned, and enable you to communicate and liaise directly with schools. Schools can, or schools, parents, employers is probably a better way to term them, can save favourites, they can save pools of tutors, supply teachers to then quickly engage them and utilise them as they want. The flexibility is fantastic. It's using smart learning, machine learning and AI to match with candidates with the roles that suit their skills, their personalities. So it's really taking that to the next level. It's not just a square peg, square hole. It's really based on the individual, where they are, what they're looking for. And quick and simple is the key thing as well, making it a super intuitive, very easy to use mobile app as well. As I said, the simplest thing is getting set up, so creating your profile, managing your own diary, which is the key as well. Start to earn more, so there are no agency fees associated with cover staff. It is purely a software license that the employer would utilise. So all that, typically an agency will charge around a 30-40% margin when it comes to working with a candidate in a school. And from the agency world, we know, as I used to work in recruitment, so I do know the dark side. The objective of any recruitment agency is you want to charge the schools as much as you can and almost charge the teacher as little as you can, and that is your money. That's the money you make for your business. Again, we do not agree with that principle. We think that is an old-fashioned and doesn't have a place in the education system we want to live in and see today. So it is all about you taking control of the rates you want to earn and you should be earning, and the schools do not have to worry about those fees because they don't exist in the system as well. We are piloting, we're in beta, sort of launching imminently in London, the Southwest, Bristol and Wales originally. Those are some very sort of key areas for us at Eteach as well, but we hope this to be a national solution very shortly as well. So if anyone is interested in signing up or joining as an early adopter, finding a little bit more out of the system and providing some feedback, scan the QR code or come have a chat over at the cover staff stand, and we can talk a bit more about it. But I'll hand over some questions. I know Julia's gagging for some.
I'm bubbling with questions, but I would rather hear from if anyone in the group has questions first. Yeah, go ahead.
I saw on the profile setup there's a space for qualifications. I just wanted to ask how that's set up, and does it include things that aren't QTS?
Yes, absolutely. It's very much a qualification sort of builder. So it's not a requirement, so you have to have QTS, etc. It's purely almost like an online CV. So you're putting in whatever qualifications you have, and that will then obviously be visible to the schools that you engage with. In that sense.
So how many schools are actually aware of this and signed up for it?
At the moment, at Eteach, we work with about 8,000 schools nationally, and they will be our sort of almost pilot audience going out in the areas we focused on for the moment. But yeah, we're piloting with some large trusts and local authorities as well, as this can be utilised on different sort of levels, different scales. And Lucy with Education Boutique, which is our sister site, sister company, will be launching this into the parent market as well. And seeing
that was my next question. How are you making parents aware that this is available as a tool to find a tutor?
Absolutely. Through, again, a lot of the marketing machine that Dean runs for us at Eteach, we'll be pushing out into our parent network that already exists, and again, utilising the normal media channels as well, Facebook, social media, targeted emails, all. But absolutely, the parent market is something we're really serving.
Because Education Boutique is Thames Valley focused at the moment, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's sort of launched there. Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. That's where Lucy's from. That's her sort of home base, her HQ. But actually, she does do tutoring work, sort of again around the Eteach audience, up and down the country, and we're looking to expand that and grow and scale that up.
Fantastic, thank you.
Will it eventually be usable by tuition companies, so tuition centres? Would we be able to hire tutors for our centres through it as well?
We really believe so. I actually had a conversation yesterday on that, and it's a really interesting question. It's not something we've initially thought that's the audience, but the dynamics, the nature of the software should mean that that is possible as well, but we'd love to explore that, absolutely.
It's really promising, thank you. Hannah, do we have questions online?
Yes, hi, from Elizabeth. From Elizabeth, she just wanted to know if it's like personalised recruitment. Is that how you would maybe market it?
If it's like personalised recruitment, I think that's a really nice way to phrase it. It is absolutely, it's a DIY recruitment agent in terms of you are in control of your own destiny with this platform. It is all down to the information you put in, what you want to communicate as your skills, your qualifications, etc. So absolutely, I think that's a really nice way to frame it, is personalised recruitment.
And one other question was, Taran was asking, do the tutors need to be self-employed?
The tutors, there's different ways of actually working with this, because obviously at the end of the day someone needs to pay the tutors. There is a payroll service built into it that is sort of powered by Eteach, so we will be the payroll and we'll do that on PAYE. But yes, tutors can be self-employed as well, and we can obviously sort that through that PAYE system. But the schools can also payroll the tutors, teachers directly through their own payroll method as well. So it's very much flexible based on the nature of who we're working with. And
It's lucky that you hadn't had a glass of champagne before you had to give that answer, because that sounded very complicated.
yeah.
Hannah, is there anything else online? No? Okay. I was wondering about, well, firstly, I love the idea of being, of a teacher tutor being able to wake up in the morning, think, oh, I could work today. Open the app, find something in a local school, and just show up, and that sense of control. Or I don't feel like working the next few days, and I know that that's going to be fine because I can find work the week after, and actually be in control of their systems that way. Have you got a sense of who the schools and the users of cover staff are looking for, and who is being picked up? Is it mostly maths, former teachers? Is it science? Is it English? Is it what key stage? What are you finding?
Largely, what we're seeing at the moment is a TA support role. High demand for that level of education at the moment, but I predict that the shortage subjects will be very much in high demand as well. We're hoping this will be a way for people that maybe have left teaching as well to, again, get back into it on their terms. And, educators, the shortage of physics teachers, maths teachers that have maybe gone elsewhere, can look at this as a way to change their lifestyle or get the lifestyle they want back that is more flexible, more tailored to what they're looking for as well. So, yeah, at the moment, support staff is definitely the large demand from the school side of things.
Staff.
Parent mark, I'm not 100% sure, and Lucy can probably give us a bit of insight there.
Do you know much about the rates for support staff? Because for a tutor who's a former teacher to decide to go into a school in a support staff role, just takes some thinking through, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the rates are customizable in there. There are fixed in terms of the National Teacher Pay Scale, etc., and unqualified teachers therefore would have their rate there. But again, it is down to marketing yourself through the app as well. So again, not relying on an agent to dictate what you should be earning. If you are a seasoned educator and this is what you want to earn, then the school will obviously have that information to be able to then engage with you as well. So
I think it's really interesting that you can sort of drive and measure the appetite of the schools for, somebody coming in with a specialism in reading, for example, and showing up as a teaching assistant, but actually being used in a really specific way. It could become really interesting as a role. I hope you don't mind me quoting you. Emma did a podcast a few weeks ago where she spoke about how stressful it is to be a teacher in a school with an expectation of doing cover as part of your contact time and not knowing where you're going to be. And to me, this approach of taking control of your career is extremely healthy for that reason, because the problem with being a teacher in a school and being thrown into a classroom is your whole reputation in the whole building is on the line, right? If you bomb one lesson because you can't control a class that you don't have a relationship with, then it trickles through the whole school and it really undermines your sense of confidence. But I think the other thing that I was wondering, Reese, was, is there any sense of training that could run alongside cover staff in both roles? So firstly, the marketing of yourself to make your profile as appealing as possible. But then secondly, how to, many of us haven't really brought cover into the portfolio of work that we do.
Yeah.
So we'll work with an agency and we'll work independently. We may go into a school that we already know a couple of times a week, but the idea of also having cover as one of our options, certainly because tutoring has seasons.
Yeah.
So during the slow seasons, going in as a teaching assistant, that would appeal to me. I would find that a really lovely way to keep in touch with the classroom.
Definitely.
So do you have any sort of support and training for going into that role and being a guest in a school and acclimatizing yourself quickly?
I think it's a really amazing point, and the whole plan, the work behind the scenes is to build up a sort of bank of resources, how to essentially market yourself, how to what to be prepared for when you're going in. It's funny, we were talking the other day about, if you look on social media, you look at some of the networks on there, the communities, one group in particular, Supply Teacher Network, almost every other post is, as you've just explained, sort of the dread of going in, not knowing what to do, haven't got the right information. I saw one, they mentioned they haven't even been given logins to the computers, they haven't got a lesson plan. All of that anxiety is just not helping the industry for us. And that is something, we're going to be able to help schools give that information electronically through the platform.
Yeah.
So you can't almost submit a assignment, a lesson plan, etc., a job without that information. So you will get that as a base set of information, but alongside it, giving that information about what to expect and all the resources and stuff. The team are working on that at the moment to try and get.
You know, I
that
think it would be
through.
really interesting, just thinking about how people have, you know, managed but struggled to find our room at Love Tutoring at Bett, and how we sort of got the hang of making videos each day to show people where to come and where to find us. Wouldn't it be interesting if the schools actually had a little video of what to expect when you get here, and who will welcome you at the door, and all the things that actually go to providing nurture for cover staff? Because if those people are people who have left school, there's a reason, and they need
100%.
support as well as opportunities.
I think it's also important to note the same education will be happening at the school level / employer level, because again, in order to have a sustainable sort of flow of educators coming in, you know, that's working in the society that we're working at the moment, it's very flexible, very much, you know, it's all about work-life balance now is a big thing. The schools need to create the best first impression. So if you've got someone on the front desk that isn't aware of someone coming in and is then rude, etc., you know, it spoils the whole experience.
Absolutely.
So there's a whole load of sort of resource and learning on one side, out on both sides, really.
I think that's
work.
fantastic. I think that whole idea of blending and flexible, and making sure that we have this culture of kindness sitting behind it is really, really powerful stuff. And I think that there'll be a really strong appetite for cover staff amongst tutoring professionals. So
Brilliant.
good for you. Right
Yeah,
thing,
well,
right
thank
time.
you very much. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for listening, everyone.
Were there any other questions? Any other questions online? Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to breakfast. If you are here online, I suggest this is an opportunity for you to go and explore cover staff, and also go and have a play in the metaverse. Grab your granola and go and sit and have some time together. But I actually have a friend here. I have a friend who will be here shortly. I'll see you after breakfast. turn my microphone on? Oh, thank you. Right, we're going rogue. We're going rogue. I brought in another extra super duper surprise session for you. So if I could trouble you to please come and sit down. You may find out something that you don't yet know. Come and join us. Come and join us. Hannah, we're going to start now. Because you weren't here to tell me not to. See, you mustn't turn your back. Come on. I do like a microphone. Come on, Lauren. Come and sit with us. Come on, Charlotte. An actual seat in the room this time. So, are the people online with us? Are the people online with us? Come on, Ricky. Okie dokes. So, sit down. I'm going to introduce you nicely. We're sitting down. We're sitting down is what we're doing. Oh, I do. Bring the bottle. I said to Victoria, how much champagne is too much champagne for a Friday morning? She said, are we talking glasses or bottles? So you know you're in good company when. So, good morning. Welcome to our secret, special, surprise extra session of the morning, because we have 20 minutes and we're all together. And I'm going to be sad in a minute that it's over. So I thought I would grab the opportunity to introduce you to my friend Victoria from Tutors International. Now, if you tuned in yesterday to our conversation around world tutoring, you won't have learned what I wanted you to learn. And so we're having another go. What I wanted you to learn is that as a tutor, you can do all sorts of interesting things. You can have adventures. You can go to great places. You can cross borders. You can surprise yourself. And Tutors International absolutely have modeled that for us, and that's what I want to share with you. Victoria and I have known each other for a very long time. In fact, from the very, very first days of Qualified Tutor, because Victoria was sent to check us out on our first ever training. And from that first moment, I saw edge of your seat learning from Victoria. We shared the first tutor training program together, and we built it and improved it together with a really, really fierce feedback loop that's turned it into something that I'm really proud of today. But what I also know from Victoria is that she's always committed to the precise needs of the child. And that's the story that you're going to hear now in what Tutors International does, how you might want to get involved if you are exactly the right person for the Cinderella and glass sipper match that you guys are going to talk about now. So no more faff and fluff. Over to you.
Well, thank you. What an introduction. My ego has grown about 6 sizes there. I wanted to welcome you all to the Tutors International brunch, everyone who's here. And I'm sorry, you guys at home, you possibly don't have the champagne going on, but if you have a bottle, crack it open. It is Friday. My name's Victoria Gibbs. I'm COO at Tutors International. And normally, when I'm standing in front of people, it's potential clients. So this is a bit of like a reverse sell kind of position for me, because you guys are, of course, pretty much all tutors. So exciting times. Now, the first question that I would like to answer is, who are Tutors International? Well, I've been given a magic, it's this screen, there we go. It works. I love it when technology works. So Tutors International is a company that was set up to provide full-time private residential tuition to high and ultra-high net worth families. We specialise, we're very different to other tutoring companies because we specialise very much in the recruitment. It's our modus operandi, if you like, is to get the fit right with the student and the tutor. And this is very important because a lot of our families are using our tutors in place of full-time schooling. So it really is important. Whenever I talk to tutors who are asking me about, how does it work with the recruitment side of things, one of the things that I always tell them is, you could be the greatest teacher in the entire universe, but if your fit isn't right with that student, we're not going to place you in that job. Conversely, you could be a very good teacher. Maybe not the best, maybe your maths is a bit shaky, your French is a bit shaky, but if you have that passion that you can share with that tutor, perhaps it's some kind of obscure hobby, I don't know, cars, old cars, what are those called? What are the ones that... Vintage, that was the word, thank you. Vintage cars, perhaps it's restoring vintage cars, perhaps it's breeding specialist cat breeds, perhaps it's the study of penguins. If you share that passion and that interest with that student, it doesn't matter if you have to go away and look up how to do simultaneous equations before you teach them, because you're the person that will be able to engage with them and push them forward in their learning and help them to unlock their full potential and explore the world around them. So we specialise in finding the right tutor for each student. A lot of the questions that we get from tutors again are, well, who are the tutors? Who are these people that come and work in the full-time private residential sphere? They generally fall into two groups. There's people that are fresh out of university who've done private tutoring beforehand, footloose, fancy-free, no mortgage. They've got the time to go away and travel and see the world with families who have that sort of lifestyle. Or they might be people who have worked full-time in schools for 20, 25 years. They've had their children, they've paid off their mortgage, and they're starting to think, well, my kids are at university, they're off living their own lives, they're off discovering their own adventures. I want some adventures, I want something new. I want to break out of the classroom. The four walls have, got a bit hemming me in here. So I want to go and explore and find out what else can be out there in the world of education, but outside the classroom. So those are the two main groups of tutors that we tend to draw on, but that's not to say that we don't have families that come and deliver tutoring for us as well. And I think we've certainly got one family at the moment. We've had multiple in the past where the whole family relocates to work with a high net worth or ultra high net worth family. It can be done. If you're the right tutor for that particular job, then you are, we will move heaven and earth to get you where you need to be to help that student. I first came across Tutors International when I applied for a job as a tutor. And it was the perfect job. It was a perfect job for me. I've danced around the periphery of education for 5 to 10 years. I was fresh out of university pretty much. And there was a job that was, let me think about this, it was primary aged boys on a boat. Now, they matched broadly the ages of my nieces, and I was like, I could do them, they're quite little. I could teach young children the primary curriculum, I'll be absolutely fine. I love sailing, so on a boat, perfect. In a hot climate, lovely. I think it was around the Caribbean, I can't quite remember, it was a while ago. Sorry? South Pacific, there we go. I'd never been to the South Pacific, excellent. They needed Spanish. I'd done Spanish at university badly, but I had done Spanish at university. Just everything from this specification that I was looking at was saying, yes, this is the job for you. I didn't get that job. No, I'm still only a little bit cross with the lady who did. But just to give you an idea of how specific we are with our recruitments, the lady who got the job, Jo, she is fluent in French and Spanish. She is a yacht master, so I've got my day skippers, I can do dinghies, I understand dinghies. She can properly captain a ship pretty much. She did an oceanographic degree at Southampton. I think she even got a master's in it. And the family that were doing this tour of the South Pacific were very keen on using their environment and the water to explore the boys' education and push the boundaries there. Oh, it was fantastic. This job was made for Jo. Honestly, it's insane. So she had the scuba diving as well. She had, she had a PGCE. She had everything. But it was, that is how specific we are with our recruitment. But just to give you an idea as well of the geographic spread of Tutors International, this was the job that I didn't get. It started, and I can't list all the places like Jo can, she remembers them because of course she went there, but this was Jo's job, this one in the South Pacific around here. And these are all the other jobs that Jo has had with Tutors International.
Oh, Jo!
I know, there's going to come a point in a moment. This is Jo, this is Jo, this is all Jo. That, I think, is Jo and Nathaniel, possibly. And then, if you look at Tutors International as a company over the whole 24 years we've been in operation now, coming up for 25, that's what it looks like.
I feel that you're underrepresented in Greenland.
Yes, so do I. I've also got my eyes on Antarctica. It's the only untouched continent. We're working on it.
Many small children in Antarctica.
Not many, but they have opened a hotel there, and I'm quite keen to go. So you know. Okay, perfect. So I think what I wanted to show tutors is there are several kinds of tutoring. There's by the hour single subject tutoring, which is great. There's taking a student through, maybe taking several students by the hour through, or accompanying a student through a year of learning, assisting them at school, that kind of learning. But there's a whole world out there that you can explore. And having the opportunity as a tutor to make that world your classroom. I mean, I'm talking to experienced educators here. I'm talking to people who teach because they love teaching, who enjoy creating lessons that are targeted to their particular student. And that's all of you, because you're here, and I know that you love tutoring. But imagine doing that on a global scale. Yesterday, we were talking about lessons in geography that involved discussing the volcanoes in Iceland. Well, imagine if you were working with a family that had the means to go to Iceland to look at those volcanoes. Imagine if you happened to be on a boat going past some exploding, well, maybe not exploding volcano, but an active volcano in the South Pacific, and you use that as a basis, a foundation for making a lesson on geography. The world is your oyster, we say, but with international private tutoring, it really is.
It sounds amazing, but also really scary.
Well, it is, but luckily you have Tutors International. Well, obviously there are other companies that will do this sort of thing, but the benefit of working with Tutors International is that rather than saying, okay, we've made the perfect match between tutor and student, off you go, have fun. We're actually there in the background the whole time managing the contract. So if you are we've had clients in Costa Rica in the middle of the jungle 10 years ago when IT wasn't what it is now, I would say, and your printer breaks or you run out of printer ink, and how on earth do you source resources for a classroom in the middle of a jungle? Well, luckily, you've basically got me back in in England helping you source these things and sending them out to wherever you are. We did a trip. We had a client who had a very short-term trip, like 6 weeks, I think, around the Mediterranean. This year, they came to us about 3 weeks before they departed. We had to find a tutor. We had to resource their classroom on board their ship. We had to, all of this crazy business. And I was sending packages of stationery off to various ports around the Mediterranean. So I'm going, I wish I could hand deliver this one. That's sad. But it's, we're there to support you. And that's not just with the resourcing side of things. It is a mindset when you are working with a family full-time, particularly on yacht jobs, you are essentially available to them full-time. The compensation you receive for it obviously does make up for that. It's quite a lucrative, I'm not going to lie, it is a lucrative career choice, but it is hard work and it does require a certain ability to work with the clients. They can be incredibly demanding, they can be incredibly chilled. They can, you have some ultra high net worth families and you just wouldn't know that they had billions behind them. There are some who have schedules that change on a whim, and that can be very difficult for tutors who've planned a lesson up a volcano in, Vanuatu or wherever it is, and suddenly you're in San Francisco this week. It is difficult, but I think it's an incredibly rewarding career choice. And I would also say, I read a thing recently where you know me, I love my books, by Justine Gorda. He wrote Sophie's World, so we're going back a while. It wasn't in that book, but he said there are 2 ways that you can become wise in this world. One is to travel around and see as much as you possibly can, and the other is to stay in one place and watch the world change around you. And I think with private tutoring of the sort that we deliver, you get the best of both worlds, because often you are travelling around, but you are also staying with one student and watching them change and grow and unlocking the possibilities of the world to them and seeing, just the wonder and the beauty of what's out there and using that as the basis for your lessons. And I think that's a really magical experience. I've been given 5 minutes there. I didn't even notice you. You were probably standing there for 10. So Sorry. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or...
No questions yet.
Amazing.
You mentioned that you wanted to tell us about some of the jobs that are available at the moment because of they're so juicy and inspiring. Do you want to take a minute to do that since Hannah's given us a couple?
Well, I can do. Adam at the back is probably a better place to do that because he's met the clients and knows the jobs.
I can give you the handheld microphone if you wouldn't mind.
I know exactly which one you're thinking
Just tell us to pique our interest.
Come on up to the front, Adam.
Specific ones are we talking about?
I was thinking about the cats, but that's the only one I know about.
Let me just put that down.
I did not know that.
So, strictly speaking, we haven't actually agreed the specification with the client as of this exact moment, but I have a call on Monday booked to go through the draft. So, actually, it's 2 children, and there are going to be 2 jobs. But the one about the cats, so there's a girl who's 17. She's probably autistic. It's actually hard to tell from the information I'm getting from the family at the moment. She has had a very checkered past. She was at school in America, then she was at school in England, and that didn't work out. She was very let down by a school in England. She then returned to America. Then she got severe anxiety and depression and has been on medication. She's off that now. And she's really only interested at the moment, although there are signs that she's extremely clever, but we can't, as I say, access that quite yet. She's really just interested in one particular rare breed of cat, some Russian, I don't know, I saw the cats, and it's in the job description. I'm not a cat, I mean, I love cats, but I don't know what these were. And she wants to set up a cattery, or at least that's if we can get her involved in setting up a cattery, which is her only real ambition, all the other things probably will return. But they live in a very rural area of Virginia. There's almost nothing around. A tutor who goes there is going to have to be super self-sufficient. I mean, there's not nothing around, but you're going to have to go and drive half an hour to find the nearest sort of reasonable sized town. It's an hour's drive to DC, which, isn't that far for DC. Washington, DC, in case people are not sure. And it's a really, really complicated job. There are issues going on in the family where, because, for example, to give you an idea of the depth of concern at the family level, in order to protect the daughter from self-harm, at some point in the last couple of years, Dad kind of started sleeping inside the girl's bedroom on the floor next to her door so she couldn't leave without waking him. And it's actually a kind of false safety, because if she wanted to hurt herself, there are lots of things in her room she could have done it with, like electrical supplies and cables and so on, and not just leaving the room. But now he's stuck there. He's got into this habit of being there. And he doesn't want to be there, but he doesn't know how to step back and let somebody else look after this problem. So when this tutor arrives, they're heading into a really, really complicated mess to tidy up. It's going to be, a 4 or 5 year, maybe 6, I don't know. I'm going to have a general rule of thumb on jobs like this, that if it takes 2 months to fix for every year it took to create the problem, then we're doing pretty well. So we're 17 years old, 34 months to fix. That's a 3-year job at best. And that assumes that the factors that made it get messed up in the first place have all gone away. If not, it's double that. So this is a 3 to 6 year timeline to try and restore some life for this child.
Thank you. I find that really inspiring. Thank you for telling us that story. Victoria, do you want to wrap up now?
Oh, no, you've thrown it back to me. That wasn't supposed to happen. I think international tutoring, it's an option out there. It's worth investigating. Do contact us on, I can do this again, Tutors International. Have a look at us. We have our job specifications pushed out fairly regularly. They're very specific. You're not going to fit all of them. But when the right job comes along for you, it will basically have your name all over it. So.
I've got one question. Oh. Do you have to be single, or can your married husband come with you?
Your married husband, well, it depends on the job.
Yeah.
It does depend on the job.
So that job so that's a great question, because that job in Virginia, the first job looking after the daughter, actually is a job for a couple, because mum needs help too. And then there's a second job with their son. So it could be that you could be a throuple and do this job.
It just got very niche. I'm going to blame that on the champagne. We're not putting that in the recruitment. It's okay. It's nice. Do you mind if I just share another project that we're working on? Would that be all right? So Tutors International, Adam and I are really excited about a partnership that we are just building to establish a level 7 for tutors. So the equivalent of a teaching qualification, the equivalent level of a PGCE, a postgrad in education, that is not a retrofit of what's been created for classroom teaching, but actually builds from the ground up what a qualification that would enable us to understand what excellence in tutoring looks like. That's what we're going to be building over the next 3 years together. So I'm really, really delighted to be able to do that with you. Thank you. Okay, thank you, my friends. We've got a little bit of tech to do. Thank you, thank you. We've got a little bit of tech to do, but I think we are going to slide smoothly. I don't think I should drink champagne before I run a presentation again. We are going to slide smoothly into our final session of Love Tutoring at Bett. 2024. Sorry, 2024. Sorry, Odette, just come here for a second, my lovely. My glasses empty. Come here. So Odette was invited by the team at Bett to go and have a look at rooms for us for next year. And they're bigger, and they're better, and they're easier to find. So those of you online, and Charlotte was online all week and is here for us today, those of you online, please book out Bett for next year, because we're going to have so much space and so much fun together. So please make time to be with us. Anything you want to say?
I just want to say thank you. You've done an awesome job. I'm so looking forward to our final session of the 3 days with Oxford University Press. We're honoured to have you with us.
Yeah, we are. Okay. Go on, you tried to take the microphone from her.
Next year at Bett, I haven't told Julia this, just look out for table talks being hosted by Love Tutoring.
Okay, we're going downstairs. That's it. We're going to be downstairs. Thank you. Odette, thank you. Odette, thank you. Okay, my lovelies, there's lots of reasons why we called this final session the Big Hug, and I'm going to, oh, Ben, you made it. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, Ben's with us. Tech's happy? Tech's happy? Okay, awesome. Would you mind coming up here from the start? Thank you. Okay, so Helen and I spoke 3 weeks ago, a month ago maybe.
Not a month. It was more recent.
I said, so you've heard of the peak end rule. The peak end rule says that in any experience, people only remember a peak and the end. And so I needed to plan those things to make sure that you guys come back again next year, that you guys leave us so topped up that you get all the inspiration and the delight that you need, that you have the most wonderful, magical memories of this time together. And so Helen and I started thinking about what we could create at the end of our session. And for me, it always comes back to feet on the ground, heartful work together. It comes down to the work that each of us do with every student that we support, comes down to the relationships that we build between each other. And so we started collaborating on a concept that would be interactive and get us up on our feet and help us to really get the energy going and help us to really engage with what the people that we really look to serve really need. And then Helen told me that Oxford University Press does something really special, because not only you use the books at school, but you also use the books at home. And Helen calls this the OUP hug. And that's where the story started. So I started thinking about wrapping ourselves around the needs of the child through the family, through school. That's what tutors do, and that's what Oxford University Press does. And so we've built this session that's going to ask you to start thinking about the specific needs of every single stakeholder within the tutoring journey. Do you want to introduce yourself at this point? Because I've started in the middle, haven't I?
I think I've got a mic on.
You do?
I'm ready to go. So morning, or it's almost lunchtime, sort of afternoon, to everybody here in the room, but everybody that's online as well. So I'm Helen Freeman and I'm Director of Oxford University Press, and I look after our children's and home learning portfolio. And there's a lot buried in there. There's lots around children's books and empathy and becoming a reader, becoming a learner, curiosity, just the full mix of what a child needs to be able to develop and grow into a curious, brilliant, inspired adult. But I think more importantly, we're a mission-driven organisation. We're a department of the University of Oxford. So yes, while we create resources and products that we sell, our profits and our sales from the things that we create and sell goes back into the university. And because the university's mission is around excellence in research and scholarship in education, our focus is always about how can we positively impact the lives of learners. And that is kind of right at the heart of every experience that we create. So within our children's and home learning portfolio, we have this very special brand called Bond. It's been around for, I think it's its 60th birthday this year.
60?
60.
Are you going to tell us about Marion Bond?
I can tell you
Go on
about
then, I love
Okay,
that story.
so the story of Marion Bond is that 60 years ago, she was a teacher on the Wirral, sort of northwest, and working in a school, and was in the classroom and preparing children then for a sort of a regional set of tests, sort of entrance exams and various tests. And she was thinking, as any tutor or teacher or parent or anybody does, what's the thing that I can do that can help this group of learners? And so what she did was she thought, well, there's an element of surprise, the questions are going to come up, that can throw a student. So she started to write on little slips of paper questions, and she would walk around the classroom and distribute at random these little strips of paper. And it was that element of surprise. What was the question you were going to get? Were you going to be ready to answer it? And gradually, she built up so many of these strips of paper that when she put them all together, she realised that she had more than enough to put them together into some kind of test preparation resources and support, so that children can learn how to deal with that element of surprise and see it as something to look forward to and to embrace, and to recognise that you can prepare. And one of the other things that Julia and I talked about just a couple of weeks ago was the role that everybody can play, hence it being a hug, whether that's a tutor, a learner themselves, a teacher in a school, all of the people in a learner's life. Everyone has a role to play, and that we can all help that learner to be prepared and be ready. And if you say to yourself, whether an adult or a child, I'm ready, there's something, if you said that about a trip, about going for a job interview for a really exciting international tutoring role, if you said to yourself, I'm ready, there's something that it tells you, it's like a confidence boost. And so what we try to do in everything that we create for use with students to help them prepare, develop their skills, prepare for tests, is to really ensure that we enable that learner to feel ready for what they're going to face in life, in examinations, 11+, common entrance, whatever it might be.
I think that word ready is really, really powerful. I don't know if it resonates with you in the group, but much of what we do is about firstly evaluating readiness, because if a student's not ready for a particular topic, you have to dial back and do what they need. But also that really our job is to help students get ready for life in whatever it is that we do specifically in our niche. That's always our shared goal. And so for me, it was quite a flip in my understanding of test prep to think about test prep as being about readiness to embrace the surprise of the test, readiness to approach a new threshold, but actually, and we had somebody in the room who said this yesterday. Kirsten said she didn't get into Oxford, but the process is really helpful. Yeah, one of mine did the Oxford exam recently, and I gave him a very specific level of input, and that was never wasted. We spoke about this. That was not in the slightest bit wasted, because, the test prep process can be delightful. It can, and I have this memory of myself as a child. I remember using Bond as a child with Mrs. Fisher, who was an old lady with white hair and sort of floral dresses, and she used to take the Bond papers out of her drawer. And I think it was still in the days where photocopying was purple. Yeah. Yes, what was that called? Bander. Yeah, and then, so we just dated ourselves. So Yukon doesn't know what I'm talking about. But what I mean to say is that changing your eye, we've spoken about putting your eye on the learner, when we've been talking about know thy impact. So in the same way, putting your eye on readiness rather than on outcomes is really, as we know, it's the only thing you have control over. I don't have control over whether or not I get the job, but I have control over whether or not I was ready to get the job. But I'm not a scuba diver, and I'm not fluent in French and Spanish, so I would never have got that job.
I should also introduce, I have Cathy Atkinson here in the room, who's also from Oxford University Press and is our home learning publisher, so spends a lot of time. Often if I glance across the office, Cathy's there with various things on the table, and she's kind of looking at something, she's looking back, she's thinking, and I'm like, what are you working on? And generally what Cathy's working on is thinking, if there's a learner in this particular situation, or there's a skill that they're struggling with, or they need some additional support, or they need some inspiration, constantly, every time I look at Cathy, she's got things like flashcards and resources and apparatus and various bits and pieces that you can tell Cathy's putting herself into the shoes of that learner and how you can help convey a concept or practice skills. And then online we have Ben Thatcher, who is our publisher for the wonderful Bond brand, which spans both a print portfolio of lots of test preparation papers, grounded from 60 years ago, but refreshed in terms of where the origin of Bond comes from, that test preparation. And Ben looks after our print portfolio, and we also have 2 digital platforms, and I'm sure during the course of the session we'll talk about how you use the right resources at the right time. But primarily, there's a bit of work for all of you today, and what we wanted to do as part of being successful in being able to impact the learners that we serve, meet, work with, inspire, all the ways we interact with them. This session is about putting ourselves in the shoes of that full collective, the full community of people that enable a learner to achieve their potential, to feel confident, to build their skills and to be ready. So we're going to have an exercise which Ben, and with the help of Cathy and I, we're going to go through, and you're going to be literally putting yourself in the shoes of the different people who play a part in a learner's life, at whatever that target or goal is. So we're going to be providing some different personas to you, and you're going to have to be thinking about, what are they thinking? What are their worries? What are the things they're excited about? What are the things they don't really want to do but feel like they've got to do? And it's that full dynamic and the full picture. And the more you go through the process, as Ben and Cathy often do when we're developing resources, the more you can tune into the needs of all of those players, I think the more you can think, what's actually the right approach to take here, or are there particular resources that would really lend themselves to this individual learners' needs.
It's really lovely because yesterday we spoke about tutoring pedagogy and we really spoke about using tools that serve the intention.
Yeah.
And so this process of putting the learner in right now, but actually each stakeholder in terms of using, first being really, really clear about the intention and then choosing the tool rather than getting distracted by shiny things and deciding to teach them instead of what your child needs, which we've all been guilty of. Fess up. Okay, so please.
So that's broad strokes the session that we're going to have now. And I'm going to hand over to Ben, who is going to talk us through the actual work, the work you're going to do, the work we're going to do together. So I will hand over to you, Ben. Can you hear us and can we hear you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's
Excellent.
great.
And
Yes.
I can see a portion of the room. I can't see what you can see. I'm hoping you can see the slides. I'm hoping I'm not looming too big on a screen somewhere and looking terrifying.
Please don't feel uncomfortable at all. Everything is beautifully set up for you. You're looking great.
Thank you. As Helen said, we wanted to get you interacting and thinking about the needs of the children and the parents you work with, and also you and your role as a tutor and some of the other stakeholders involved in that. It's the sort of thing that we all do every day. So as tutors, you'll be doing this, and AUP as resource developers will be doing that as well. But it can be helpful just to kind of slow down once in a while and to stop and think about it, think it through, check that your assumptions are in line with the evidence you've got in front of you. I don't think we have anyone online, but let me know if I'm wrong on that.
You then you can't see that from where you're sitting in class because that's in virtual days. So please don't be distracted by that. But what we'll do for the people online is we'll do our best to get you involved, get you set up, and get you participating in the discussion. So you'll be doing your work independently rather than in breakouts because we couldn't make that happen for you in virtual days. But what we in such short notice, but we could do it next time. But what we would love for you to do is to participate in the insights and share your insights when we get to the discussions. We're going to break you guys out in groups now, and you're going to get right stuck in. So Ben, back to you, and then let's get started.
Great. I think you're going to cover it there, really, that we'll have about kind of 10 minutes, break you into groups, have about 10 to 15 minutes to talk through a persona per group. And then we'll come back together and kind of run through those and then get comments from anyone else who's able to. If you're online, you can kind of join in more clearly at that point.
Fantastic. Can you just remind me, are there any right answers here? No, we're not looking for right answers. We're looking for empathy. So please dig in and enjoy yourselves. Feel free to get up and go and work somewhere quietly if you want, and I will call you back. Work in groups of 3 ideally, because if you work in a bigger group, you'll get lost, but 2 can not create the dynamic that you need. So work in groups of 3 if you can.
And you'll be given a persona, so you haven't just got to dream something up. We've created some prompts.
If you can't make it 3, we can be a 4. We can be a 4.
So if you one of those.
Thank you, Ben.
So that's to fill in, and then this is your persona for this group. So you guys are Nina. Are you all together?
We're going to make it a 4. Should we go to the table?
I think we want to give you another 5 minutes. So please make sure that you've really, really dug into your persona and really, really focused on that specific set of needs, because our conversation is going to be really driven by your empathy. So please make sure that you make use of the time to really dig in to the thoughts and feelings of your persona.
Hiya, Ben. You're there.
Rufus and Sarah. Who else did we have?
We're coming back into the room, Ben.
And Jackson.
We've been the other side of the wall just drinking champagne and eating
Val.
pastries. Have you been
And
working hard?
Paul.
I've just been sat here drinking champagne.
Excellent.
I'd love to know, firstly, whether you felt like that conversation was... there's a microphone in every group right now, right? Okay, so I'd love to know, firstly, from you at home... Sorry. You at home are going to need to make a real effort to get stuck into this conversation. Hannah, do you have a microphone? Okay, we are going to do our best to include you, but you need to lean in right now. So the first question is this. Did you find this conversation helpful, and why? Did you find this conversation helpful, and why? Come on, nice, easy question. No right or wrong answers. D, did you find this conversation helpful, and why? Sorry. Did you find it helpful to have that group discussion right now? Please tell me why.
I've had to be a student. I went to a classical art academy to learn to do classical drawing and classical painting, and because I didn't believe I could do it, but there was a poster on the wall that said, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" So putting myself in the shoes of the learner has made me a better tutor.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Charlotte, did you find it helpful?
We really had to hone in on the way the child was thinking, but we also expanded it to talk about the parents as well, because parents was part of our spiel. So we were thinking about it from different points of view and how there was a clash, but also how we could embrace that and bring a kind of a compromise to it.
Fantastic. It's getting really, really practical now. Go ahead.
Well, there was something really interesting that happened in your group where I was called over to mediate because the persona, in terms of what you both read, you both took something different away from that, and each of you were asking, well, is it this or is it this? And the similar thing happened in another group where they said, well, I can't tell just from this piece of information. And I said, well, what would you do then? You'd start to kind of do something as a tutor to help build up the picture or expand the picture, which might be through asking questions and trying to tease out information that could help fill some of those blanks. And I think in your case, I think you had Nina, who's 8, and the key thing was she wanted to do the same as her friends, and the point that was open for interpretation was, were all her friends taking the 11 plus, and she was aspiring to be that ace 11 plus student and pass the grammar school entrance and go to school with all of her peers, or was it that she was taken 11 plus and all of her peers were not? And interestingly, you drew on your own experience, and you both had almost the opposite experience in your day-to-day lives as tutors, didn't you? Absolutely. I think probably the best thing is if we go group by group and just talk about what you gained from putting yourself into your persona's shoes, but then also let's lead probably with the different personas that you've got. So which group would like to go first?
Nina's up. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. We've got Nina. So do you want to tell us a little, in a snapshot, who's Nina? What are her motivations, goals?
I think Nina's already had an introduction. So she's a year 8 student looking to sit the 11 plus exam. And she's just having some struggles with that. And we were discussing how we can maybe support that and offer some solutions for that. Mm-hmm. So in terms of her motivations, and feel free to chip in, guys. Yeah, in terms of her motivations, she likes online games, she likes crafts. So she's got clear hobbies. She wants to do what her friends are doing. And as we discussed, we weren't sure what that meant. And again, she doesn't want to disappoint her parents. So we were thinking, is this intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation? And we also know she does want to pass the 11 plus, okay? And in terms of her goals, we were thinking passing the 11 plus, so that was shared. And in terms of her frustrations, she struggles with grammar and spelling. She has English as an additional language, and she doesn't really like maths very much. So that's just a snapshot of who Nina is.
Great.
Yeah.
And between you as a group, where did that lead you in terms of your understanding of Nina, but the sorts of ways you could work with her, support her, guide her, either with practical activities or just that sort of motivational side of things?
Cool. Do you want to answer that, Shana?
Sorry, in case anybody doesn't know, these guys are actually test prep experts. Do you want to just give us a little bit of context of what you do all day, please, before you answer this? Because it's very relevant.
Okay, so I run Wonderlearn English tuition, and I work online and face-to-face. I work with 200 students a week, but 2/3 of those are 11 plus students, and I work with them specifically in English, and then the rest are GCSE. And I live in Wallington, so if you know Wallington, Wilson's, Sutton Grammar, the top schools in the country for GCSE, and they're all grammar schools, so everyone is clambering over themselves to get into those schools in my borough, and they will come from anywhere in the country.
That is an amazing context for this conversation. Thank you.
Okay, so, I mean, teacher in me got straight into, right, tasks. So thankfully, Eunice and Francesca brought me back to, hang on, let's go back a bit. Let's go into motivation, let's go into where she's at and ask her some questions. So, yeah, definitely getting to the heart of why she really wants to do this. And you can't necessarily change someone who wants to not disappoint their parents. You know, you're not going to say, that's okay, what do they care? Do you know what I mean? You've got to work with the families. So we also said we would definitely work with the parents as well, manage their expectations, talk to them as well about their motivation for her going to grammar school, talk to her as well about what she really wants and what she really loves, and get to the bottom of her passions. So that kind of came to some practical tasks about, you know, working with her on building, assuming this is one-to-one, building a little curriculum around what she really needs. So she's already said grammar and spelling, so making sure we prioritise those, but obviously talk to her about the benefits of practising the other areas as well. But with that sense of wanting her to realise we see her as a whole person, so that although she has got these needs, kind of fit in some sort of craft topic or some sort of online project along the way as well, that maybe as part of the motivation to get things done, she can have that at the end of the session. In terms of tasks, keeping them short to about 15 minutes, keep them, you know, interesting. We talked about spellings and, yeah, quick wins in terms of quick things, drawing from Arthur and what he said about achievement, and getting some quick wins in terms of spelling or grammar very quickly, so it builds her confidence. I think that will do. Okay.
I wonder because did you want to add something else? So I think also you had the same persona. So rather than coming back to Nina again, whilst we're still talking about Nina, was there anything more that came up in terms of how you approach thinking about Nina's needs and anything additional?
I think it's meeting her where she's at in many ways, and from what you understand from the context, it's knowing what questions to ask, and understanding the questions that could really trigger that connection and develop that connection that you'll have with her. And although nothing's explicit into understanding her motivations or her own goals, her intrinsic goals.
Sorry, I forgot to say something, but have you got anything else to say?
Yeah. I think just that point, that the intrinsic elements, the parts that make learning so special and meaningful to them as a student, as an 8-year-old, it might be difficult, but there might be elements that we overlook because we might not see that.
Yeah.
But having access to that through questions, I think, could really open those doors.
Yeah, and the only other thing that was actually the most important thing was that we're focusing on the progress and the achievements that she's making, not on the end goal of the 11 plus.
Yeah.
And because that is so far in the future, and they stress about it so much and they get freaked out. Can I just share one? So I had this boy who we were doing a mock test, and he freaked out before he even came to it, and I could see him online struggling. It was an online lesson, and I was chatting to him in chat saying, "Oh, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh." This is a year 5 boy, and at the end of it, when everyone had gone, I sat with Mum and we talked about it, and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Oh, I had a really bad mock once, and now I know I just freak out every time." And I said, "Hang on, why are you freaking out?" And he said, "Oh, because I know if I freak out, if I can't do this exam, I won't pass the 11 plus, I won't get a good job, I won't." And I'm like, whoa, 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 you're 10, you know. And the 11 plus is like a year away, and you can make so much progress in that time. And I said, let's take it back a bit. What's going to happen if you actually don't do very well in this one specific exam? And he said, "Oh, well, I'll just get a bad grade." I said, "Does that mean you won't get a good job?" "No." And we brought it back because I think even as young as year 5, they can catastrophize and take it well into the future. So we just focused it back on breathing, calming down, etc., etc. Brought it back to just take it one paragraph at a time, etc., etc. And we literally had, because it was a paper class I was doing, so we had another one on the next day. And I spoke to him beforehand. We breathed, we calmed it down. We said, we're just focusing on this. He whizzed through the whole thing. And it was just taking, and it was reminding them it's this one thing we're working on. It's this progress, it's this goal. And breaking down that massive goal of the 11 plus into these tiny pieces and just celebrating every win, as you said, Eunice.
For me, the coaching in that process that you took the time to do is really, really important. Catastrophizing is where most of our students are right now. Yeah, and the fact that school doesn't make sense doesn't help, but these young people haven't the foggiest what they're going to do when they grow up, and people keep making promises that actually aren't really true. It's not true that if you pass your 11 plus, you'll have a good life. It's not true, right? You can not pass and have a great life. You can pass and, you know, all sorts of things can happen along the way. And I think that what you did there about bringing his eye back to the journey and showing him that nothing terrible will happen was an immensely powerful thing to do. And I really want to give you credit because Ephraim said, go to where the child is. And that's what you did at the end of that session. And the spillover from that conversation goes way beyond your classes, doesn't it? Because you've just given him a skill that is a transferable skill. You can see that child doing a job application and hearing your voice in his head. And that's who we are for these people. Lauren, I know that that's who you are for your students. So that was a really, really powerful addition. Thank you.
Can I say it just off of your story? I am from Scotland, so Scotland system is slightly different. A lot of similarities, but slightly different. And I had a student last night, and I'm not in Scotland, and they know that, and it was online and things, and they said, that's not your usual background. And I said, no, I'm in London, I'm in somewhere exciting. This student is 10, and they said, how scary is that? And it made me think, and I thought, and I was honest, and I said, it was really scary. Like, it's really scary. It's a big thing. And she said, yeah, but you're 25 next month. Surely you've got it all figured out. And I was like, but what does that mean? And she went, well, you know, you get told in school that once you've got the job, once you've got this house, once you've got the partner, once you do all of this, that is your life sorted. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't think I've even started yet. And she went, oh. And then the parent texted me this morning and said, whatever you said to her, she's away to school bouncing, thinking, great, I can do whatever I want now. So she's got something as simple as, like what you say, and a dream that she wants to chase that wasn't, all right, I've got to go and do this. I've got to achieve this. No, I can do what I want to do. So that made me think of that, actually.
I also love that the mother messaged you, right? Because, again, we're talking about a big hug here. We're talking about all the stakeholders. I've just discovered with the tutors that are supporting one of my children very much at the moment, WhatsApp groups a WhatsApp group between the parent, the child, and the tutor really, really helps. But probably the parent will need some training about when to and let the child take responsibility. So I'll very often say to mine, she texted, you need to reply, rather than actually replying myself. But being able to observe the conversation is really reassuring for me and helpful. So that mum clearly has eyes for what you're doing, because she associated the bouncing happy person to what happened 12 hours ago. And that's a real partnership. That speaks a lot to the trust that you've created there.
Well, and just being an incredible role model generally, because you're modelling behaviour, that there's something, and I think in both scenarios, that is about acknowledging that there are some things in life, in learning, all the experiences where you can experience overwhelm when you start to eye up the prize, the goal, and being able to take the heat out of the overwhelm by breaking it down. And that's that element of small goal, lots of progress, small goal, lots of progress. And actually, with each little step, you're achieving that ultimate goal, but it's breaking it down.
One of us, I think many of us in this room had an aha moment on the first session of these 3 days. Our friend Arthur Moore told us that there is a misconception in the relationship between motivation and attainment, where we think motivated children attain. But actually what happens is children who attain become motivated. And that's intrinsic motivation. That's the actual buzz of doing well. And I think when we talk about resources soon, when Ben gets involved, we'll talk about building quick wins in that actually help children to feel baby steps that can give them that boost of confidence.
Yeah. Should we go to the next group? I don't know which persona we've got next. Is it Jackson? Who had Jackson? Does anyone have...
Jackson.
Anyone have Jackson?
Can you tell us about Jackson to start, please?
Hi, that's better. Jackson's a 9-year-old who is looking ahead, similarly to Nina. He's looking ahead to his 11 plus and his SATs, and he just thinks that it's all very unfair, doesn't have much control over the situation at all. He hates homework, he hates exams, and it seems like he doesn't actually understand the point of a non-verbal reasoning exam, so it's very frustrating for him. His parents' approach is to say, well, let's get you a tutor to help, and he just thinks, ugh, more. He just wants to go to the park and play with his friends, so he's not having a great time at the moment. But what he wants to do sounds awesome. He likes to go skateboarding at the park. He likes to read graphic novels. He likes to watch things on YouTube. And he's already started being creative. He's got a zine that he wants to show to his friends. None of us even know what a zine is, but it just sounds really cool. So he obviously knows how to spend his time, but he's being told to spend it on loads of things that he hates doing. So
Jenna knows what a zine is.
yeah.
Sorry.
Jenna's probably got a zine.
My brain was ticking then because I was like, zines were like, oh sorry. For a moment there, my brain was ticking because I was like, zines were becoming less of a thing when I was young. And I'm just trying to think, because they come back and go, and it's basically just small magazine-esque things, which is where it's come from, but they're more like creative and collaborative and things like that. So it's more like anthologies and stuff. So it's like mini graphic novels or mini poetry anthologies and stuff like that, often used by like activists or young people and stuff.
It's worth pointing out what just happened there, because if you meet a mum who tells you that your child's into zines, you jolly well have to find out what a zine is.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is how I know way
Which, by
more
the
about
way-
Warcraft than I actually wanted to know. So we've got Jackson's frustrations quite clearly. His motivations are all of these things that he enjoys. He loves cartooning, he loves skateboarding, he loves creating these graphic novels, and he obviously loves spending his time with his friends because he wants to share all of that with his friends, and he's got to sit with his tutor on his own and do all of this homework. So he's not happy about that at all. Personally, it seems like his goals are to do those creative things, but presumably alongside that, he's got the goal that he wants to get these things over with. He wants his 11 plus, his SATs, his non-verbal reasoning done, and then he can carry on with his zine and showing all of this stuff to his friends. But very much like we've been saying, those aren't his goals. Those are the things he wants done. And to make him spend more time on it and make it more of a big issue is just going to make it harder for him to achieve. I don't understand why we would have difficulty teaching non-verbal reasoning to somebody who's very creative and likes art. That seems like it's just being pitched the wrong way to him at the moment. Definitely could be something that he would really benefit from.
What is this non-verbal reasoning?
Yes, I love when people do that. Thank you. Sorry, assumed knowledge. Very, very awesome. Helen, you have to answer this.
I'm going to let Ben answer it, actually. Non-verbal reasoning.
And verbal.
And verbal reasoning.
Well, they are reasoning tasks, whereas verbal reasoning would be kind of word play and word games and those sorts of things. With non-verbal reasoning, it's more pictorial. So, for example, it might be a series of images, and you have to point out the odd one out, or work out which would come next in a sequence of images, which kind of change as they go along. So, for someone like Jackson, NVR, non-verbal reasoning, would seem like a really great thing for him to be involved in, something that would really motivate him, because it connects in with all these kind of graphic sort of images.
I absolutely love the verbal and the non-verbal reasoning. I do them with my kids, and I have such fond memories of doing them, because it's a specific way of your brain working that for some of us feels like play. It can be really nice. Fun. She used to get books out of the library and do them for fun.
Can't see me. I just had a real problem-solving brain, and I just always used to love that. And 11 plus was never anything on my radar, but yeah, I used to get maths textbooks and verbal reasoning out of the library, and yeah, because it was something I could do and it was successful, and therefore I was achieving.
You know you're in good company when you can tell people that. That was yum. Thank you. Francesca, that was really, really cool that you called us out on that assumption. Thank you.
Did you recognise Jackson was the thing I wanted to ask. Yeah.
Jenna's nodding. Oh, Emma, you're coming next. Pass it down. Jenna, go ahead.
I feel like I have taught this exact student several times over. And in a way, they're the most fun students to teach, because you go from this severely disengaged child who is so reluctant and frequently obstinate, or, you know, it starts off rocky and they take a long time to settle in sometimes. But the moment they go, hang on a second, learning is fun. Learning isn't just separate from life. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It's both, and that learning happens everywhere and it's not restricted to lessons. And for me, it is really the epitome of what tutoring is.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about yesterday, and meeting the student where they are and looking at fitting the tutoring to the student, not the student to our model. So I run an education business. We offer lots of different types of services. So if I was onboarding this family, and I would say it's a family, not a client, not a student, we're onboarding the family, I would be talking to this parent and saying, the traditional one-to-one tutoring is probably not the best place for this child. They are better in a group environment where they have peers, where they can learn through games, where they can bounce off of each other and have a little bit of banter, and it's not as rigid as school. And I wouldn't be pushing for a one-to-one. I would be saying to the client, if I didn't offer that service, I would be saying to this parent, I'm not
Look
for
on
you.
the qualified tutor directory and find
I'm
someone
not
else.
for you. But I know this amazing company that does offer this, because just more one-to-one pressure, which is what one-to-one sometimes can feel like to a student, isn't going to help. It's going to push him even further away from the goal, whoever's goal that is. And then in my very first session with Jackson, my conversation would be, now your parents aren't here, what do you want? And that's how I start with every student.
And what do they say?
They're really honest, which surprised me to start with. When I started doing it, I was like, I've had the onboarding conversations with your parent. I know what grade your parent wants you to get, but what do you want? Not what's on your report. What do you want to see on results day? And they go, well, yeah, school thinks I should get a 7, but really I'd be happy with a 6. Okay, so we're aiming for a 6 then, because it doesn't matter what's on your school report.
Wow.
And it's a really powerful conversation.
Is there a change in the generation in terms of their confidence and their ability to advocate for themselves, say what they need, say what they feel? Lauren and Joe are both nodding their heads off. Joe, do you want to, can I call on you?
So my background is primary, but I very much having those conversations, and Jackson would be one of those ones where I'd have a chat with parents and sort of say, it's absolutely fine, let's have a session, let's get to know each other, let's have a chat. But just like this lady here, I'd want to know what he wants, because it's him that has to take the journey, it's him that has to set the end goal. If he's not engaged, because he does say he's not bothered which school he goes to, then it's about finding the right fit for him and where he's going to thrive. Because I do think engaged children thrive, and they outperform. To push a child through that sausage factory for the expectations of others, I just don't think is a healthy way to go, particularly for his mental well-being.
I think we all agree with you here, certainly in terms of the well-being. But I particularly appreciated what Emma said about maybe a group's better, because, you know, we have a tendency to oversimplify things, right? There's a sausage, there are lots of sausage factories, and one-to-one tuition may not be the right factory for him, yeah? Group tuition may be a better delivery model, or online, or flipped classrooms, or lots of other ways. And again, our commitment is always to go to where the child is. So Georgina sort of flipped, I had a flip in my stomach when you said they just want to get through it. Yeah, because that feels like a great big barrier. That feels like such a hopeless place to be. And then Jenna said, but we can show them that learning's fun. And Emma said, and that may be in a group. And then there becomes a conversation where we're actually building options, and we become, like we spoke about yesterday, the person who signposts for those options, the person who sort of brings out the opportunities. And if it's not me, it's someone else, because I have too much integrity to take your time and your investment if it's not in service of the student. So lucky Jackson that he got you guys.
And I think we have another group at the back.
Yes, that's right. This is the last one, which is about Vel.
Is that Sarah?
Oh, no, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
There's someone online who wants to speak about Jackson, and then we'll come to Sarah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Hi, hello. So Jackson was the case study that we shared online with the participants. So slowly we'll get to them. Sorry, guys. So they were saying that the frustrations might be that they're finding motivation was quite hard for Jackson, Katie said, and Julie Shanley Edwards said that his motivation is probably centered around his spare time. He sees school and education as interrupting his real life. He's motivated to improve his cartooning to the point that he is making a zine, but this is not seen as worthwhile by his parents or the system, while his goals may be to do something in the graphic novel world. And his frustrations are that school, education are interrupting what he wants to do. He feels like he is just marking time until he can do something that he really wants to do.
That's amazing. So we've been talking about alignment consistently through our conversations over the last 3 days, and aligning ourselves with the needs of the student, with the preferences of the student, or if we can't align, then finding the right person to align, but absolutely valuing what's important to that young person. And yesterday we had a demo with Gaia, and they were talking about looking at pay slips to explain the value of understanding maths. So making things really, really practical. Now, I know that you guys have a million ideas about how to make Jackson engage with verbal and non-verbal reasoning based on his interest in graphic novels. I think with my mummy hat on for a minute, it is too easy to get into conflict with young people because we believe that we're supposed to have all the answers and they're supposed to listen to us because we're older and taller. But I'm not taller than most of my children now. And I can jolly well tell you that there is a transition that happens where you stop being the authority and you start becoming the facilitator, and that the adults have to understand that movement. And the way Emma says, I'm working with a whole family, you're genuinely sometimes giving parenting advice to those parents and saying, get out of his way. He knows what he needs. You know, the girl with a cattery doesn't need GCSEs. She needs business advice. So there's so much that we can do as the adults to actually align with the students rather than competing with their interests. And that idea that Julie and Katie, hi, that idea that Julie said about you're in the way, school is in the way, goodness me. Do you know what I mean? How unhelpful is that?
Great. And thanks to the people online, because it's quite hard to contribute when there's a whole room of people. So good on you for contributing. So going to the back of the room, did you have Sarah?
No, actually, we have Val.
Val.
So our theme is from
there we go.
Tutors' perspective.
Great.
And is he on the screen? No. Okay, right. Val has been tutoring for many years, so it's basically about using the content, coming up with new ideas, new worksheets. As a tutor, if I relate to my experience as a tutor, I come across with many platforms, many resources online, and you feel so motivated to use new worksheets and content every day. But if you're not familiar with the content and you have not done the actual resource by yourself as a learner, and you will feel frustrated actually. And especially when you're teaching back to back, you don't have that much time to go through each resource, and you just picking random pieces from here and there from different platforms, and you didn't have chance to do the questions and picking up the misconceptions by yourself where the child can go wrong, and so you're ready to be able to explain from the mistakes. And my focus has been really teaching from mistakes. So this is where we're solving the problem. And they are not, during the 1 hour session, parents are obviously paying for the 1 hour. So students are not wasting time, and parents are not wasting their money for their 1 hour session. So you really need to plan your lesson. If you are using new content, new worksheets, and you feel quite motivated about it, but make sure you plan ahead and do the worksheet as a learner, and make a note of the mistakes. So you can just quickly, even if it's a group session, and you can just quickly target, okay, this is the question, they arrive on question number 5 or 6, then this is where I need to approach them while I'm explaining X, Y, and child, and then I will approach when they arrive to question 5. So you can quickly solve the problem there and then. So group session, even if it's one-to-one, still I think if it's a new content, you do need to solve them first. And the other, that was a frustration if you're delivering a group session and children are not getting it, and they are just sitting and they're not doing the work, and you feel overwhelmed because you have different range. You might be teaching across different key stages. You have year 3 or year 4 and year 6, and you're not familiar with the content, and it can be quite overwhelming as a teacher, as a tutor. And the other thing we have mentioned is about low quality products. And I personally have no experience about low quality product. Whatever I have used on different platforms, they are quite well revised. And also as a tutor, I think she wants to give them the best because she's quite well recognized and she wants to keep her reputation, and because she has managed to acquire lots of clients through word of mouth. And if she's not giving her best, and obviously she will struggle to retain students. And yeah, that's another issue. Then obviously you end up spending more money on marketing, finding new clients, and you're not focusing on the ones you have. And that's big expense. You need to probably focus on the ones you have.
I think what's really interesting to me is how high stakes it all begins to feel, right? Wasting precious time and losing students, that's not where we want our heads at all. We want to be somewhere much, much calmer so that we can focus on what's really important. Do we have more in this group?
Just can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just adding to that, if I put myself into the shoes of this qualified tutor, it has happened to me a lot of times. Like, for example, sometimes it may happen to us that we don't have time to prepare for our class, and we have a class maybe this evening. And what we do is, let's go to all the resources that we have and then find the suitable one that you think is good for this class. But in this class, all the students are highly motivated. They need more challenging worksheets. Now, what I did is, since I didn't have time, I found a worksheet. A few questions at the beginning were good, but then at the end, or maybe what the questions that I am looking at, those are good. Other questions are low quality questions, which means they are not challenging enough for those students. That could also be a factor here, because when I come to the class now, and then students will say, oh, these are really easy questions. Now, students feel like they're wasting their time in the class. They are not being challenged.
It's really interesting to bring the student into that, right? So initially we were talking about wasting the parents' money, but for the child to be motivated enough to call you out or be disappointed is also really important. We've certainly seen I've seen lots of different resources pass by the qualified tutor front door, and I'm learning to curate them far more intentionally, because what I feel that we haven't mentioned here is decision fatigue. And we've all just walked through the Bett conference to get up here, and it's blooming exhausting because everybody believes that they've got the best tool that's going to solve all your needs. We've already committed to understanding our own intention before we pick up a tool. But if that tool is then disappointing, style over substance, it's a problem. It's a problem. I mean, this is really your sweet spot, the resource creation.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting, I mean, we developed these personas for this session because the starting point was, how can we help us think around the whole situation? And you touched on, it's the whole family that you're working with, not purely one individual student. But what's really interesting is we developed these for this session, and we developed them by drawing on the insight. We get inundated with questions, largely from really anxious parents, or sometimes from tutors, and people are asking about the resources, but really the question is about the resources, or what can I do, how can I help? But really behind that, what's driving it is emotion. And in each of these personas that we've looked at, there's something quite deep and emotional for that individual, whether it's a parent, whether it's the tutor, because we're all trying to do something or achieve something. So, and then even more interesting, there's the emotions of these different players, but there's also, like, as you reach kind of stepping into those shoes and playing back to us, you could see your emotion, imagining what success looks like, and imagining how you could help a child, a worried parent. How can you help as a tutor support everyone in that situation? And I think particularly here, I'm really sorry I can't remember your name. You started, your whole body language changed when you started imagining where, you know, the journey that Jackson was going to go on. I think it was Jackson, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was right at the beginning. Jenna and I just weren't confused. We were confused who you were pointing to. So I think we need to focus on the how now, because we've done that empathizing, but we also wanted to work on efficacy, right? So are we going to hand over to Ben at this point?
We're going to hand over to Ben, and Ben's going to talk us through our range and how we might use different resources. So.
Sorry, is there not a 50% discount for qualified tutor members?
Yes.
Goodness me! Love that about us. No, you know why? Because they were in Costco a few years ago. My poor kids, they got the whole set.
So Ben, I'm handing back to you and I will sit down and let you do a bit more talking us through, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's been fascinating to hear all the different thoughts on the pupils and the tutors and so on, and just kind of understanding more about that kind of nexus of all these different people who are involved and their kind of different drivers, and how fantastic it is that there are such engaged people who are willing to look at them as individuals and to develop an approach that really suits them and their needs, and maybe their real needs rather than perhaps their kind of perceived needs. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of bond materials, which are hopefully something that is a useful resource for tutors looking at helping children with the 11+ in particular. At OUP, we have like a whole range of materials from for classroom and for home use, or for kind of use in tutor groups or tutorial sessions. And this would include something like Oxford Revise, which is kind of for Key Stage 3 GCSEs, A-levels. But I'm the publisher for Bond, so I'm going to talk to you about Bond. And obviously you can tell that the personas we're just looking at are slightly skewed towards the 11+. It's been a particular focus for OUP and for Bond. And Bond has been around for about 60 years. It's been with OUP for less than that, but we are continuing that tradition. The reason why the 11+, I'm sure many of you will know, is kind of so important and gets so much focus is just because it's one of those points in Key Stage 2 where there's a real clear end point that children and their parents are trying to get towards, and that is a fairly big motivator, perhaps why people seek help, whether it's through resources or through a tutor. For many kids, it'll be the first formal exam that they sit, and therefore it's kind of quite a big deal for them, something that they need to be prepared for, if only the experience of going and sitting through that sort of test, as much as the individual skills involved within that, some of which they'll probably know better than they realize, some of which they're also being taught in school. So with the Bond range, one of the fundamentals is trying to demystify as much as we can. So this doesn't actually relate entirely to products themselves, but actually on our website, we have a lot of information for parents which guide them through the nuances of the 11+, help them to know what they need to prepare for or where to find further information for, and to provide some free resources that would be useful for parents or for tutors to be able to structure some of that preparation and some of that learning for the 11+. Things like the revision planners and motivation planners, which can be helpful. In some situations, it may kind of feel a bit too full on, and maybe something else would be needed. But these resources are there for those who want it and find it most suitable. And of course, kind of most of the big resource suppliers have this sort of thing as well. So it isn't just us, but obviously ours are the best. Then I would say that. So one thing to point out is that as this perhaps quite hard to see the poster on the left-hand side of this slide shows, we have a lot of titles. So we've got something like 200 books in the Bond range, in the print range. And the reason for that is because we know that every child is at a different point in their development. They've got different needs, different points of strength, different points of challenge, where they maybe find some things a bit harder or skills they haven't learned. So we have titles like our handbooks, which give an overview, and it can also be really useful for parents if they're trying to help their children develop. Anyone who's kind of worked with a 9-10-year-old at home as a parent will realize that your children know much more than you do very often. And when they ask you to help them with a question, one of the big blockers as a parent is not actually knowing how to answer that question, or not knowing the right approach to that. I don't know, from when I started when I was at school, the approach to learning certain things within maths or how to learn English has changed vastly for my own children. So the most arguments I have with them are more around how to answer a question rather than me helping them and showing them that I know how to answer it. It's that kind of method that many parents struggle with. So we have things like our handbooks, which help to inform that, help to empower parents when they're kind of caught in those difficult conversations at home. We also, at the point as you start to get towards the exam, so in kind of years 4 or 5 and the start of year 6, we have a range of titles. So we have our kind of our standards books to help with a particular subject area, but also we have an up-to-speed range. So if you're not yet working at the level you need to be for a particular subject area, you can work with something that will nurture you through that process a bit more than you might do for someone else who might want one of our challenge or our stretch titles, which are for those who are going to really finding that they need further challenge on top of
Ben,
Ben,
I'm really sorry to stop you in full flow as you work your way through the bond portfolio. We've probably just got a couple of minutes left.
But what we can do, of course, is to send the slides out and make the rest of the information available, especially your last slide that's got the code on it.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I can go on a bit about bond.
No, I had just said to Julia that actually the important part of this session was us thinking ourselves into the shoes of those different stakeholders.
But I did just notice something. Which is, Ben, you said when we just handed over to you that it was lovely to have a chance to hear the thinking of such motivated practitioners. And I don't know about you, but you know, like when you work with a textbook and you sort of think about the person who made the question, you know, and sometimes it's only because there's a typo there, so you remember that there is actually a human on the other side. But having this opportunity for us to inform you about how committed we are, I think creates a feedback loop that's really, really important. And of course, it aligns totally, if you'll excuse me for being a little bit self-serving here for a second, Ben, it aligns totally with what we're doing here, which is raising standards in tutoring together, right? So by creating this relationship where Bond know they can ask qualified tutor members what works and what doesn't, or they can even anticipate or build out as a persona ourselves of what are the motivations, the challenges and the goals of qualified tutor members as motivated professionals in this space, we actually begin to inform the content creation. And that for us is a really, really powerful position that we've never been in before. You know, Marion Bond made those little strips of paper, and it's almost like we've gone right back to the beginning of that journey, and we get to be the Marion Bonds, and you can roll out the insights. You know, I promise you, if you sit down for an hour with Charlotte Watson, you will jolly well learn something about 11+. So that's who we are in this room, and this is how we're going to finish. Are you ready? You're going to cringe? You're going to cringe? You have to come up here for a group hug that Jamie's going to go, come on, come on, sorry, you're in, Helen, you're in.
I'm in.
There's no ducking with Kathy. If somebody could please go and yell at Odette and tell her to come and join this. Hannah, I know that you are avoiding this. Victoria, we need you in. We need you all in, please. No, it's okay. Jamie will take the picture and share it with us. All right. Okay, you're doing this wrong. It goes like this. Come on. If you could avoid any chins and tummies, that would be wonderful.
Get the chin and tummy. Do we need people kneel down in
Yes,
the front?
double Yeah. Come on in, please don't be shy. Oh, well done. Thank you. We will help you up, don't worry. This is why we didn't get beanbags for the room.
Oh, you're all right.
Squeeze in. It's a big hug. Everyone say Love Tutoring. Love Tutoring. It's almost like he's done this before. I need you to know that by posing, you've now given us consent to put you on the homepage.
Yeah, we're there.
Okay, so my lovely friend, somebody help Dee up. It's not nice. Jenna also needs a hand.
Discount code is on the screen.
Well done. Your discount code is on the screen. You've jolly well earned it. We love you. We love tutoring. We are proud of what we're making together. Thank you for being part of Every Drop. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, OUP. And thank you, qualified tutor members. We love you.
And thank you, Julia, because you've been amazing.
Aww.